Hello, I'm Darren Magee and welcome to my mental health information and awareness channel. Now, today's topic comes from a conversation I was having recently with a colleague about vindictive narcissism. Now, if you find this video helpful, please check out my other videos on mental health related topics and please consider subscribing to my channel. So, first of all, let's look at what we mean by vindictive narcissism because let's be honest, narcissists can be very vindictive. So, is being vindictive a sign of narcissism, or is there such a thing as a vindictive narcissist? Well, first of all, let's look at the different types of narcissism. Let's look at people on that narcissistic spectrum. So, the general characteristics of narcissism include being self centered, requiring attention, admiration. There is a sense of entitlement, being antagonistic, and the need to dominate others. But the differences in the different types is, well, first of all, there's the grandiose type or the overt narcissist. This is the in your face narcissist. Now, characteristics include being socially dominant, being extroverted, needing to be the center of attention. There's a lot of arrogance, there's resistance to criticism, even when that criticism is constructive. Then you've got the vulnerable or the covert narcissist, the poor me victim type. Now, those characteristics include there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of internalized anger, there is low extroversion, a lot of neuroticism, and they are extremely sensitive to criticism. There is a lot of resentment towards themselves and others. You also have the closet narcissist, who can have many of the same kind of traits, beliefs, anywhere on the scale, though I think they tend to lean more towards the vulnerable narcissist. But the difference is with a closet narcissist, it's not themselves they worship, it is someone else. Perhaps a parent, a narcissistic parent, for example. They are the center of the universe, they are their God, not themselves. And it's not uncommon for people on that spectrum to swing back and forward, to move from one tactic to the next. Sometimes they're overt, sometimes they're covert. Given a certain situation, depending on which strategy they think is going to work best for them at that moment. But they generally have a default setting, a place to start from, if you will. So when it comes to the vindictive narcissist, that trait, that quality, again, common to anyone on that spectrum. But I think they tend to lean more towards the vulnerable end, the covert end of the spectrum. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, I would liken the vindictive narcissist to someone who say goes for a new role in work, goes for a promotion, but they don't get it. It goes to someone else. Now, and I'm not talking about cases where there maybe is genuine discrimination taking place. I'm talking about someone who just doesn't get what they want. So they ask for feedback from the interview, which is their right. Um, but when they get that feedback, they don't take it as constructive. They don't learn from it. Perhaps in the interview they hadn't answered some questions adequately, or they weren't able to show a particular aptitude in some area. Do you know what? Maybe even they came damn close to getting the job, but the person who got the role was maybe better qualified, had more experience, whatever. But like I say, they don't accept the feedback. They find ways to be able to refute everything that's said. They do not accept it as constructive. They don't use it to learn for the next time because they have already decided they were entitled to that job. They have been wronged somehow. So maybe they put in a complaint about not getting the role. That complaint is not upheld, so they appeal it. And then they put in a complaint about the person who didn't uphold their grievance. Um, they end up bringing in the union. They end up bringing in solicitors and so on. They also bring in start a campaign, if you will, making life difficult for the person who got the role, feeling they have had something taken from them. They may even end up leaving that company, starting a new job somewhere else, and they hate that organization. They will do what they can to make life difficult or to slander that organization. Another example could be even just day to day life, someone whose partner leaves them and they do what they can to punish that person for leaving them. They may try to turn their kids against them, whatever. They will use solicitors to reinforce how right they are, having a solicitor communicate to the person for them. But at the same time, they may be trying to win that person back. So let's have a look at the characteristics of the vindictive narcissist. That vindictiveness comes from a place of perceived insult, wound, a loss of privilege or right. Even if it comes from a criticism, as I say, if that criticism is even constructive or honest and accurate, they're seeing that as a rejection. The end of a relationship, maybe someone's just at the end of their tether, they can't take it anymore, and they even say just something as simple as, do you know what, this just is not working out for me, maybe we're better off apart. They see that as a rejection. And what follows is a commentary on the other person's lack of knowledge, ability, integrity, honesty, sense of decency, and so on, because they feel that person is responsible for their pain. So there's dominance. Now, again, at work, say in a meeting, they're sitting in a meeting and somebody comes up with an idea that people agree is a good idea, maybe we should try this, but they have this need to change something. Even if that change is nonsensical, even if it's petty, even if it's ridiculous, I think we should use blue drawing pins, It's just for the sake of having some kind of say over it. At home, it might be something like, no, use that fork. I don't want that fork. No, they're both identical, but no, I want that one. I prefer that spoon. This is my seat. You sit in that one. It's all about just wanting to have control, because in their minds, it feels better when they're in charge. They love to have power, and when you look at it realistically, now sometimes people who are like that, realistically, having a sense of control and a sense of power is not necessarily good for them, or indeed others, because a lot of the decisions, again, they're maybe nonsensical. They're often rash. They lack insight. They don't think about consequences. It's just the sound of their own voice they like. And that lack of insight can make them very difficult to reason with. They generally pick on other people they see in a weaker position. Or they will try to dominate equals, and they will try to do this, particularly in a relationship with a partner. They may try to do this through a sense of continuing one-upmanship or whatever. In a work setting, the thing is, it's curious, in a work setting, they don't target those in a higher position. They generally don't, because there is enough insight there to know that they may get into trouble. So even if they do, even when they do, they may try to be more subtle or sneaky about it. Now, when it comes to manipulation, that is a common trait in narcissism. But the vindictive narcissist isn't as skilled as, say, the grandiose or even the vulnerable type. And the manipulation can sometimes be, it's almost comedic. If you look at it on the outside, it's so childlike. Others tend to see through their gaslighting very quickly, because there's no real thought or scheming or whatever goes into it. It's just what is in their head at that moment. Because they're trapped. They're trapped in their own world of pain, their own world of malcontentment, believe in their own lies. And this means that they have difficulty growing. They have difficulty developing as people. They are not open to new ideas or experience. And because a lot of their revenge tactics have been learned in childhood, their plans are often fantastical to them, but absolutely bizarre to others. In reality, their revenge tactics are often very reactive. They're very poorly thought out. I'll be honest, some of the revenge schemes I've been on the wrong end of, or I've had to listen to sometimes, mightn't have felt good at the moment, but with hindsight, you can look back. It's almost like Wile E. Coyote in nature. Another thing they do, but again, not as highly skilled as say, the grandiose or the vulnerable, they recruit what are known as flying monkeys. And I've made videos on flying monkeys. If you're unfamiliar with the term, please check them out. But flying monkeys are really agents who will do their work for them, or at the very least, collude with them. And those schemes rages, the agents that they recruit, it's not about bringing someone round to their way of thinking, or even to change a situation. It's designed to punish or to drag others into their world of unfairness and malcontentment. The need for revenge. I think with the vindictive narcissist, that need for revenge comes from constant rumination over whatever it was they found insulting or unfair. It's what they believe as opposed to what actually happened. And the more they ruminate, the more intolerable it becomes, the more energy and outrage it builds. And that need for revenge that they have, it can destroy themselves and everything around them. But even, this is the thing, even after sitting in the midst of their own carnage that they caused, they will still blame the other person because they made me do it. And that need for revenge that they have, they believe it's going to give them some sense of relief, but it never does. Now, some of the common tactics that the vindictive narcissist will employ, some of the common tactics may involve destroying their property, dragging a key down the side of their car or whatever, ordering things online from them, from their account, ordering takeaways and things like that to be delivered to their house, arranging for someone to come out to that person's house to measure up for new windows or whatever. It's all about trying to get revenge. It's trying to get one-upmanship. And as I say, sometimes those ideas are just so poorly thought out, because eventually they always get caught. Another tactic I've come across personally is constantly talking about something over and over again, being sad, not hearing any objection, even a reasonable objection, until the other person gives in. Now, that vindictive narcissist may believe they are being assertive, but they're not. All they're doing is grinding someone down until they say yes, even if it's just to say yes to get rid of them. So again, what the vindictive narcissist shares with other people on that spectrum is a lack of emotional regulation. Because even after someone has been destroyed, even this is both problematic for the narcissist as well as their target, they never learn. They never grow as people. It can be problematic also in the sense that the revenge is irrational. No one actually wins. And in reality, at the end of the day, everybody gets to see the narcissist really for what they are. And yet they still don't get to see it themselves. They lack the insight to see others sometimes nodding without even listening to a single word they're saying, because they know it's complete nonsense. It's just sometimes they don't want to be on the wrong end of that vindictiveness. And as I've come to learn with narcissism, on that spectrum, ultimately it is self-destructive. Again, I sometimes call it Ahab. It's like being like Ahab, Captain Ahab looking for his whale, destroys himself, his ship, his crew, just trying to get this whale, That's generally what happens. So that's a brief outline of vindictive narcissism. I hope you find this video helpful. As I say, please check out my other videos on narcissism and indeed other mental health related topics. If you have any experiences or thoughts, please use the comment box below, and please feel free to suggest any topics you might like me to cover in future videos. As always, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates. Until then, thanks for watching.